I stood in the middle of the school hallway, gasping for air as the sound of sirens wailed in the distance. And all I could see was the crimson pool spreading across the floor while my younger brother looked at me with eyes full of a cold, unrecognizable hatred that I knew would haunt me for the rest of my life. I had finally broken, I had finally pushed back, but at what cost? And was it worth destroying our family just to win a war that had been brewing since we were in diapers? People are calling me a monster, my parents won't even look me in the eye, and the school board is deciding my fate as I record this, so I need to ask you right now, was I wrong for finally defending my sanity? Or would you have let your own flesh and blood push you off the edge of a cliff too? You see, this didn't just happen out of nowhere. This was the explosive culmination of 17 years of psychological warfare, physical bruises hidden under long sleeves, and a sibling rivalry that turned into a bloodbath. My brother, Ethan, is only 14 months younger than me, but from the moment he could walk, he viewed my existence as an obstacle to his happiness, and my parents, bless their hearts, were too blinded by his gifted status to see the sociopath growing in their living room. Growing up, I was the shadow, the quiet older brother who just wanted to play his games and get through school. But Ethan was the storm, always needing to be the center of attention, always needing to prove that he was faster, smarter, and more aggressive than me. It started with small things like him breaking my favorite toys and telling my mom I did it myself in a fit of rage, and because he could cry on cue like an Oscar-winning actor, I was always the one who got grounded, always the one who was told to be the bigger person, because I was older. By the time we hit middle school, the physical fight started, and they weren't just playful wrestling. Ethan would go for the throat, he would use his nails, he would wait until I was sleeping to pour freezing water on me or hide my inhaler just to watch me panic. Our parents called it brotherly bonding and boys being boys, but I knew better. I knew that every time we stepped into that school building, a countdown started. This year, the tension reached a boiling point because for the first time in our lives, we were in the same high school at the same time. And Ethan decided that the entire campus was his kingdom, and I was the court jester he needed to humiliate. He started rumors that I was stealing money from the cafeteria. He hacked into my social media to send disgusting messages to the girl I liked. And he even went as far as to plant stolen test papers in my locker to get me expelled. I spent every single day looking over my shoulder, my heart racing every time I heard his footsteps in the corridor, knowing that he was planning his next move to dismantle my life. The teachers were tired of us, the principal knew our names by heart, and the constant fighting had turned our home into a silent war zone where dinner was eaten in separate rooms and the air was thick with the smell of resentment. I remember one specific Tuesday morning when I woke up and found that Ethan had shredded my final art project. Months of work gone in seconds, and when I confronted him, he just laughed and whispered that he was going to make sure I never graduated. Every morning felt like stepping into a cage with a predator who knew my every weakness. He didn't just want to beat me in a fight, he wanted to erase my identity. He would wait until I was in the shower and steal my clothes, forcing me to walk out in a towel while he filmed it to show his friends. When I tried to lock my door, my father told me that brothers don't keep secrets, and forced me to take the lock off. I was trapped in a house that felt like a prison, and a school that felt like an arena. At school, Ethan's influence grew like a cancer. He joined the football team and used his status to turn the entire team against me. They would corner me in the locker room. And while Ethan watched with that sick, satisfied grin, they would throw my clothes into the urinals or kick my bag across the muddy field. I tried to tell the coach, but the coach just saw Ethan as his star quarterback and told me to toughen up. The psychological toll was becoming unbearable. I started having panic attacks in the bathroom stalls, clutching the walls and trying to remember how to breathe while I heard Ethan's voice outside, mocking me to his friends. He even went so far as to steal my medication for my ADHD and flush it down the toilet, laughing as he told me that I didn't need pills, I just needed to stop being a loser. My grades began to slip, not because I wasn't smart, but because I couldn't focus on a book when I knew a prank was coming. I couldn't sleep because I was waiting for him to burst into my room. I remember the night before the big blowout. I was sitting in the kitchen at 3 a.m., just staring at a glass of water, and Ethan walked in. He didn't say anything at first. He just walked over, took the glass, and poured it over my head. When I didn't react, he got angry. He grabbed me by the collar and told me that tomorrow was going to be the day everyone finally saw me for the freak I was. He had this look in his eyes, total, absolute darkness. It wasn't the look of a brother. It was the look of someone who had completely lost their humanity. I went to my room and cried, not out of sadness, but out of a terrifying realization that one of us wasn't going to make it out of this year in one piece. I felt like a cornered animal. And as any biologist will tell you, a cornered animal is the most dangerous thing on earth. I started thinking about the way he moved, the way he always manipulated the cameras, and I realized that the only way to beat him was to play his game, but the cost was going to be my own sanity. I spent the rest of that night staring at the ceiling, calculating every move, every possible outcome, but nothing could have prepared me for the sheer violence of what was about to happen. The next morning, the air in the house was thick, like the moments before a thunderstorm. My mother was humming a tune, oblivious to the fact that her sons were about to tear each other apart. Ethan was eating breakfast, looking perfectly calm, even charming, as he chatted about the upcoming game. It was nauseating. When we got to school, the atmosphere changed instantly. Groups of students were whispering, looking at me and then looking at their phones. I realized he had posted something else, some other lie to set the stage. I walked through the halls feeling like a ghost, a dead man walking. I saw him near the trophy case, surrounded by his cronies, and he pointed at me and whispered something that made them all roar with laughter. My vision started to blur at the edges, that red tint of pure, unadulterated rage finally overcoming my fear. I had spent 17 years being the bigger person, and all it had gotten me was a broken spirit and a room full of shredded dreams. I walked into the cafeteria, the smell of stale pizza and floor cleaner filling my nostrils, and I knew this was it. This was the arena. I saw him sitting there, the king of his mountain, and I realized that if I didn't stand up now, I would be his footstool for the rest of my life. The adrenaline was so loud in my ears it sounded like a freight train. Every step I took felt heavy, like I was walking through deep water. I saw him look up, saw the moment his smirk registered that something was different today. He didn't see the scared little brother anymore. He saw someone who had nothing left to lose. And that, my friends, is the most dangerous person you will ever encounter. So that is exactly where things stood. I was standing over my brother with 1,000 witnesses watching, my heart hammering against my ribs, and a choice to make that would define the rest of our lives. Before I tell you the absolute carnage that followed and the secret I uncovered that changed everything, I want you to stop right now, go down to the comments, and tell me, what would you have done? Would you have turned around and walked away? Or would you have finally given him exactly what he deserved after years of torture? I'm reading every single comment, because I need to know if I'm the villain here. After that moment of silence, Ethan stood up, his smirk turning into a snarl, and he shoved me so hard I hit the table behind me, the sound of crashing trays echoing like gunshots in the hall. He started screaming at the top of his lungs that I was attacking him, playing the victim perfectly for the crowd, but this time I didn't back down. I lunged at him, and for the next 5 minutes, it was pure raw chaos. We were a blur of limbs and anger, rolling across the floor, crashing into vending machines, and tearing at each other like wild animals. I felt his fist connect with my jaw. I felt the skin on my knuckles tear, but I didn't care about the pain anymore because all I could see was every time he had made me cry, every time he had ruined my life, and every time my parents had looked the other way. The teachers tried to pull us apart, but we were locked in a death grip of mutual destruction. And it wasn't until we tumbled down the small flight of stairs near the exit that the real tragedy happened. Ethan fell awkwardly, his arm snapping with a sound that I will never forget, and as he hit the bottom he pulled me down with him, and my head slammed against the concrete. As I lay there, dazed and bleeding, I saw Ethan clutching his mangled arm, but the look on his face wasn't one of pain. It was one of triumph, because even as he lay broken, he knew he had finally gotten what he wanted. He had made me the aggressor in front of everyone. But then the unthinkable happened. As the paramedics arrived and the police started taking statements, a girl from the AV club stepped forward. She had been filming a project near the trophy case and had captured the entire thing, including the 10 minutes before the fight where Ethan was caught on a hot mic explaining to his friends exactly how he was going to provoke me into hitting him, so he could finally get rid of the freak. He had bragged about shredding my art, about the medication, and about how he had our parents wrapped around his finger. The silence that fell over the cafeteria when that video was played for the principal was deafening. My parents were called in, and for the first time in their lives, they saw their golden boy, for the monster he truly was. They watched the video of their son admitting to systematic psychological torture. My mother collapsed into a chair, sobbing, while my father just stared at the screen, his face turning a ghostly pale. The aftermath was a slow, painful burn. Ethan's arm required multiple surgeries, and he will never play football again. But the physical injury was nothing compared to the social and legal fallout. Because he had admitted to stealing and destroying prescription medication, a federal offense. And because the video proved he was the instigator, the school had no choice but to expel him. But it went deeper than that. The police opened a full investigation into his manifesto, and found that he had been planning something even worse for the graduation ceremony. He had been scouting the school's security system, looking for ways to cause a mass accident that would blame me. I was cleared of all charges, but the victory felt hollow. I moved out the day I turned 18, unable to stay in a house that held so many ghosts of my brother's cruelty. My parents tried to call me, tried to apologize for the years of neglect and be the bigger person speeches, but how do you forgive people who let a wolf live in the same room as a lamb? I'm in therapy now, trying to unlearn the habit of looking over my shoulder every time a door opens. I realized that the fight in the school hallway wasn't just about a juice box or a shredded project. It was about the survival of my soul. Ethan is currently in a mandatory residential treatment facility, and the last time I saw him, through a glass partition, he didn't look like my brother at all. He looked like a stranger who shared my DNA, but none of my humanity. The scars on my knuckles have faded to white lines, but the scars on my mind are still fresh. I learned that sometimes, the person you are supposed to love the most is the one who is most capable of destroying you. If you are going through something like this, please, don't wait until you're standing in a pool of blood to speak up. Don't let them tell you to be the bigger person, until there's nothing left of you to be. It's been a long road to recovery, and I'm still walking it. This experience taught me that blood doesn't make you family. Respect, love, and boundaries do. And sometimes you have to lose a brother to find your own soul. If you've ever dealt with a toxic family member or a sibling who tried to tear you down, please like this video, so I know I'm not alone in this struggle. Subscribe to the channel for more stories about the dark side of human nature, and the reality of family secrets that no one talks about. Share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section below. Do you think Ethan can ever be redeemed, or was he born this way? I'll see you all in the next story.